Helen, for that, and good morning, everyone. I'm already in trepidation with this canter that we have with Helen's gong seen somewhere, so I'll try to keep this to 10 minutes and be very disciplined. Absolutely tremendous pleasure to be able to be here today and to talk to you. The MaRIUS project, for me, and I guess I'm here in many ways representing the policy, the strategy, and the delivery end of drought and water scarcity, is probably, no, not probably, definitely the most important bit of underpinning research at a really important point in time for the way that we develop future policy and strategy in this area that I've seen in almost 3 decades in this particular industry. So a great pleasure to be here, and very, very good to see so many of you that have been working with the MaRIUS project. And I think it's important to remember, and the other reason that I'm here is because I think the genesis of the MaRIUS project probably was born of the 2010-2012 drought. And for better or for worse, I was the executive manager in the environment agency responsible nationally for the delivery of that across multiple sectors. That may draw boos, hisses, I don't know, but you know, we learned an awful lot. And one of the things we learned is that we absolutely needed this area to be visited from the academic standpoint. So my job today is to give a little bit of context, so I hope you can see through the rest of the morning how the work in the MaRIUS project links to the challenges that we face from a policy, a strategy and delivery end. See if I can press the right button here, Tom. Ah, look at that. So droughts are inevitably highly complex issues, and the 2012 drought was particularly complex. It attracted the attention of senior politicians right up to number 10, and that takes an awful lot of management time and complexity to get really tricky information across to people who are effectively lay people. They're experts at policy and strategy, but all this was very, very new to them. And that's the same to senior representatives within big organisations, whether they be public water supply, whether they be in other sectors such as energy, agriculture, the environment, etc. And this was a new agenda for so many of them. The science is complex. We know the systems that we're looking at are incredibly heterogeneous. And we were blessed with some of the best science available internationally, but actually it's not a case of pressing a button and it will give us the answer. There's an enormous amount of judgment involved within managing the drought process. And of course it attracts a lot of media attention, which I'll come on to a little bit later on as well. And I think what was different about 2012, for the first time certainly in my career, we were genuinely looking down the barrel of the gun, and we realised that actually we were getting dangerously close to a situation where we could be looking at a level of impact on society and the economy which we hadn't seen for 3 or 4 decades. And the implications of that in 21st century Britain were absolutely enormous and very, very much focused the mind of senior decision makers. A couple of things I'd just like to touch upon. Every drought is different, and for me there was 3, I'll describe those revelations I'd just like to touch on, which I think were really important in terms of the questions that we needed to ask and how we could improve what we did. Because certainly I'd like to think there were some things that we did well, we did better, but there was an awful lot of things that we recognised we could have done better with better information, better planning and better support, etc. So I'd just like to go through a couple of these, if I may. So the first one, and it won't be a revelation for you, but it's really important to remember those politicians, those very senior decision makers, that this was a revelation for them, the hard realities of drought. And to put it in a very oversimplistic way, we had to teach them that when it stops raining, the clock starts ticking. There's no magic answer. And effectively, we go through some slightly dry weather, some water scarcity, some sort of developing drought, some severe drought, some catastrophe, until it really starts raining again. Because actually that's the way that we have designed our system, and I'll come back to why that's really important in a moment. And we had to get across to them that there wasn't an easy option to get out of a drought in the timescales that we had available. And there's effectively only 4 things you can do. You can conserve the limited resources that you have so that they last as long as possible. You can share the resources that you have in terms of where you do have some surplus and deficit to sort of get some uniformity across that. there is a chance to create some new resources even within a drought scenario. But actually, because of the timescales we operate in, those opportunities are extremely limited and certainly wouldn't extend the ability for us to manage the drought very much at all. And to put that in context, if you look at water planning in parts of the US or Australia, they've got about 2,000 days before they get overly worried about the dry weather and what it will do, and they need to start doing some emergency issues. In the southeast of England, with our groundwater sort of basis for that, you're probably looking at about 500 to 600 days before things get pretty tricky. In parts of the west of the UK, then you might be looking at 60 days before you go from being at relatively normal conditions to actually you've got a problem. That's not because people have planned incorrectly. They've planned based on a stable climate and the periodicity of how often and how much rainfall will occur at what time of year, in what way, to replenish the resources and to reset that clock so we can start again. And of course, what's fundamental to that, and there's one thing we can be certain about, is that we can't be certain on the future climate. The other thing we can do is adapt, i.e. we can share the pain so we can allocate resources differently. But we had to get those lessons across to people. Now, in each one of those four categories, MaRIUS is going to help us in terms of how we do things in the future. The second thing was empower and engagement. Very pleased to see some of you here on what is called the National Ground Crew. In the past, the Iraq Agency and government have tried to manage disparate groups, all thinking they're the most important and they need the resources that are available. This time round, we brought all those groups together, working together to share the problem, to share understanding. And the amount of collegiate working between them was absolutely incredible. Paid dividends. That can be improved, but it was enormously beneficial. The other thing was, of course, the way we work with customers. And I think the one story to represent that is that in 2012, in April and May, we had floods across the UK. At the same time, we had 20 million people on restrictions. Consumer Council and Water did an independent survey. 80% of customers understood how that situation could exist. And that was on the back of an enormous engagement process. It wasn't perfect, a lot we can do better, but it does show what can be achieved. The final one, just to finish off, is again academic. The only certainty is uncertainty. And I think the MaRIUS project particularly is going to help us understand this, because we do need to revisit the rule book for how we manage water resources and drought in the future, because of that lack of confidence in what the future climate will bring, no matter how good the science is that underpins those decisions. And of course, so many people outside this room think that it's all about rainfall. What's the change in rainfall? Where adapt our water resources planning to do that? Hopefully most of us appreciate it's a far more complex. When you look at evapotranspiration and the temperature effects, already we're seeing the droughts exacerbated in California, not just because of the change in precipitation, but because the growing period is starting 6 weeks earlier in the year. When we look at that impact in the UK, it's quite significant. Looking at the periodicity of drought, those timescales I talked about, are the timescales we are planning on from sort of normal conditions to the end of a drought, still appropriate. Almost certainly not, and we need to understand that. And then finally, systems. We need to understand drought outside the context of just a reduction in rainfall and changes in temperature. We need to look at it as a system, and many of you might have read Resilience in the Round, a recent report that we've written, which is trying to integrate and change from a risk management approach to a resilience approach, which is a really seminal shift in the way that we think about not just water resources, but planning across the whole of the water and wastewater sector. I hope that's been useful in terms of context. Really great project. I'm looking forward to seeing how companies implement and apply this research in their business plans, and we'll be watching and working very closely on that. So thank you for your time.